There are matches that decide who advances. And then there are matches that decide how history remembers a generation. For Morocco, this is one of them. 3 years ago, they walked into the biggest match in the nation's history carrying the dreams of an entire continent. Africa had never seen one of its teams reach a World Cup final, and for 90 minutes, Morocco believed they could become the first. Standing in their way was France, the reigning world champions. A team filled with superstars. A team that had been here before. When the final whistle blew, Morocco's dream was over. France had won. But something unusual happened that night. Morocco didn't leave the tournament as losers. They left as believers. Because for the first time, the football world stopped calling them an underdog and started calling them a football power. Now, 3 years later, history has given them another chance. Another meeting. Another knockout battle. Another opportunity to eliminate the very team that ended their greatest World Cup dream. But here's the question almost nobody is asking. Is this actually a better Morocco team than the one France defeated in 2022? Because if the answer is yes, France may be walking into a far more dangerous match than anyone realizes. On paper, this looks simple. France are one of the favorites to lift the World Cup. They possess incredible depth, world-class experience, explosive attackers, elite defenders, and perhaps the most complete squad left in the tournament. Most predictions give France the clear advantage. And honestly, it isn't difficult to understand why. Whenever France reach the knockout stage, something changes. They become colder, smarter, more ruthless. They don't need 10 chances. Sometimes they only need one. That is what makes them so frightening. But football has never been decided on paper. Because every World Cup creates one team that refuses to follow the script. A team that ignores probabilities. A team that keeps proving everyone wrong. This year, that team might be Morocco. Think about everything they have already survived. Pressure. Expectation. Difficult opponents. Hostile atmospheres. Every single time people expected them to disappear, they came back stronger. Not because they played beautiful football. Not because they dominated every match. But because they understood something that many bigger nations forget. World Cups are not won by reputation. They are won by moments. And Morocco have become masters at winning moments. That is exactly why France cannot afford to underestimate them. Because this Morocco side is no longer trying to make history. They already have. Now they want something much bigger. Revenge. But revenge alone has never won a football match. Tactics do. Discipline does. Decision-making does. And this is where the story becomes fascinating. Because beneath all the headlines, beyond the emotional narrative, there is a tactical battle that could decide everything. A battle most fans will never even notice. France have one of the fastest attacks in world football. Morocco have one of the most organized defensive systems in the tournament. France want chaos. Morocco want control. France want transitions. Morocco want patience. One team wants to speed the game up. The other wants to slow it down. It sounds simple. But inside that contrast lies the biggest question of this entire quarterfinal. Can Morocco force France to play a game they don't want to play? Because if they can, everything changes. And strangely enough, the answer may not depend on Kylian Mbappe. It may not depend on Hakimi. It may not even depend on who scores first. Instead, it could come down to one tactical adjustment that almost nobody is talking about. One adjustment that has quietly become Morocco's greatest weapon throughout this tournament. And if France failed to solve it, the football world could witness one of the biggest World Cup upsets in modern history. But before we explain why, we first need to understand something even more important. What exactly has made Morocco so difficult to beat, and why do so many elite teams keep falling into the same trap? The biggest mistake people make when they talk about Morocco is believing their success is built on passion alone. It isn't. Passion might inspire a team, but it doesn't eliminate football giants. Structure does. Discipline does. Intelligence does. and Morocco have all three. Watch them closely for just 10 minutes. You'll notice something unusual. They rarely look rushed. Even when they're defending deep, even when they're under enormous pressure, there is almost never panic. Every player seems to understand exactly where he should be. That isn't luck. It's preparation. Because Walid Regragui hasn't built a team that depends on individual brilliance. He's built a machine where every movement has a purpose. When Morocco lose possession, the nearest player presses immediately. The second player blocks the passing lane. The third player protects the space behind. Instead of chasing the ball, they close the options. That tiny difference changes everything. Most teams defend players. Morocco defends space. And against technical teams, that can be devastating. We saw flashes of it throughout this tournament. Opponents enjoyed possession. They completed passes. They looked comfortable. But once they reached the final third, everything became crowded. Passing lanes disappeared. Crosses became predictable. Danger slowly faded away. That is exactly how Morocco want matches to be played. Not chaotic. Controlled. Because every minute the game stays under control, pressure slowly shifts onto the favorite. And against France, that pressure could become dangerous. Because France aren't built to wait forever. They're built to strike quickly. Few teams in world football transition from defense to attack faster. The moment they recover possession, everything changes. Suddenly Kylian Mbappe is sprinting into space. Ousmane Dembele stretches the opposite side. Theo Hernandez begins overlapping. Aurelien Tchouameni looks forward immediately. Within seconds, a harmless situation becomes a goal-scoring opportunity. That's why France don't always need to dominate possession. Sometimes, they actually prefer not to. Because the more space you leave behind, the more dangerous they become. Which creates Morocco's biggest dilemma. Should they attack with courage, or defend with patience? Push too many players forward, and Mbappe could destroy them in transition. Stay too deep, and France may slowly suffocate them with pressure. Finding the perfect balance might become the difference between history and heartbreak. But here's where things become interesting. France's greatest strength also creates one of their biggest vulnerabilities. Their fullbacks love attacking. Theo Hernandez constantly pushes high. Jules Kounde often supports the build-up. When France dominate possession, those movements become weapons. But if Morocco can escape the first line of pressure, suddenly enormous spaces begin to appear behind them. And Morocco possess exactly the kind of players who can exploit that. Achraf Hakimi doesn't need many invitations to attack. Hakim Ziyech can switch play with a single pass. Azzedine Ounahi has the vision to break defensive lines. One accurate transition, one perfectly timed run, one mistake, that's sometimes all it takes in knockout football. The problem is getting to that moment. Because France know exactly how dangerous counterattacks can be. That's why Didier Deschamps rarely allows his midfield to lose its shape. Whenever one fullback attacks, someone covers. Whenever possession is lost, France react immediately. It's one of the reasons they've remained one of the hardest teams to eliminate in major tournaments. They don't simply attack well. They recover well. Which means Morocco cannot rely on hope. They'll need precision. Every pass must have purpose. Every movement must create space. Every transition must be ruthless. Waste 2 or 3 opportunities against France, and you might never receive another. But there's one battle that could decide everything before either team even reaches the penalty area. A battle that won't appear on the score sheet. A battle casual fans may never notice. The midfield. Because if Morocco lose control there, nothing else will matter. And if they somehow win it, France could face a completely different kind of match than they expected. The question is, do Morocco actually have the players capable of matching one of the strongest midfields in world football? That answer may determine whether this dream continues, or ends exactly the way it did in 2022. The final battle isn't happening on the wings. It isn't happening in the penalty box. And it may not even be decided by Kylian Mbappe. It is happening in midfield. Because this is where Morocco's dream either survives or collapses. France possess one of the most complete midfield units left in the tournament. Tchouameni brings power, control, and ball progression. Kanté brings experience, anticipation, and endless energy. And behind them sits a defense that rarely loses its shape. That combination allows France to attack without becoming vulnerable. It's one of the biggest reasons they keep reaching the final stages of major tournaments. But Morocco have something France may not fully enjoy facing. Midfielders who are comfortable under pressure. Ounahi can turn away from defenders in tight spaces. Amrabat can protect the ball and break the first line of pressure. And when Morocco managed to escape that first wave, suddenly France are forced to run backward. That is the moment Morocco are searching for. Not long spells of possession. Not 25 shots. Not beautiful football. Just a few moments where the game becomes open. Because in knockout football, one moment can erase every prediction. So what is Morocco's path to victory? First, they must stay compact. Second, they must avoid losing the ball in central areas. Third, Hakimi and Ziyech must exploit the spaces behind France's fullbacks. And most importantly, they must survive the first hour of the match. Because the longer the game stays level, the heavier the pressure becomes on France. Suddenly the favorite starts thinking. Suddenly every missed chance feels bigger. Suddenly the crowd senses an upset. And what is France's path to victory? Much simpler. Force Morocco to defend deep for long periods. Attack the spaces around Hakimi. Win the transition battle. And let Mbappe receive the ball facing goal. If that happens consistently, Morocco will struggle to survive. So who has the real edge? Emotionally, many people will want Morocco to win. Tactically, they absolutely have a chance. This is not a fantasy matchup. Morocco are organized enough, disciplined enough, and mentally strong enough to make France suffer. But over 90 minutes, France still possess the more complete squad. More depth. More experience. More match winners. And in games this close, that usually matters. My prediction? France remain slight favorites. Something like 55-45, not 71-29. Much closer than many people think. And if Morocco score first, everything changes. Because this quarterfinal feels different from 2022. Back then, Morocco were trying to shock the world. Now they are trying to prove they belong among the elite. Back then, they were a surprise. Now they are a threat. And that may be the biggest victory of all. Whether France advance or Morocco complete their revenge, one thing is already clear. Morocco's identity has changed forever. They are no longer the team nobody expects. They are the team nobody wants to face. And on the night they meet France again, the football world will be watching one question. Was 2022 the end of Morocco's dream, or just the beginning of something even bigger?